Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hey all, welcome to the State of the Economy podcast on agriculture. Over the past few years, India has been one of the countries to be affected the most by climate change and global warming. Precision and sustainable agriculture holds the key to better and more efficient production in these circumstances. This will not only lead to improved yield but reduce costs too. With increasing population and rising consumption, precision and sustainable agriculture holds the key for a better future. Tell us more about this. We have with us Ms. Anjali Bansal, managing founder of Avanaa Capital. Avanaa Capital is very much focused in solving the climate issue, technology, and innovation. It supports startups in this field. Ma'am, welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast and agriculture. As a managing founder of Avanaa Capital, you have been looking into various aspects of agriculture. We would like to know how you view the role of precision agriculture in modern farm.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be on Business Line. We started Avanaa a few years ago with a view to taking technology and innovation, applying it to large-scale problems, which will then lead to, of course, large-scale solutions, creating both impact on the ground as well as financial returns. From a perspective of climate and sustainability, which is our focus area for Avanaa Climate and Sustainability Fund, agriculture and food systems are a critical component both on the emission side as well as on the side of building, creating the mitigation for emissions, but also adaptation and resilience for both society and economy. Food systems and agriculture, as we know, is a large part of not only India's economy, but also means of livelihood, employment, and sustenance from a food supply chain point of view for India and for Bharat. In addition to food systems, we also look at energy transition, industrial decarbonization, resource management, water, waste, as well as land use. So the reason I mention all of this is integrally linked with agriculture as we look at water availability and hence resilience, climate resilience, resilience to temperature and adaptation that is required to transition our agricultural practices to much more precision-based farming, regenerative farming that is not only economically and financially viable, but also sustainable from an environment point of view. Some of the particular areas that need further examination and that Avanaa has been focusing on across the value chain are food growing practices, waste management that comes out of the agricultural residue, as well as what can be done through better nutrition and more sustainable nutrition in the soil ecosystem. So I will give a few examples. In our company, Iki Foods, Iki is based in Kota. They have generated a polymer-based growing chamber ecosystem in which they are able to maintain root temperatures below 30 degrees, even though ambient temperature is 50 degrees and above. Consequently, they are able to grow vegetables throughout the year. So they're doing tomato, eggplant, cucumber, green chili, sort of everyday Bharat ki sabzi with 80% less water use and minimal use of electricity because there is no greenhouse. So in the absence of a greenhouse, they use evaporative cooling. They are doing sensor-based, they have embedded sensors in their growing system. So IoT-based continuous monitoring and hence precision delivery of micronutrients into the root system. And as I mentioned earlier, 4x yield per acre, 80% less water use, and highly scalable agricultural practice. So this is absolutely sort of India's indigenous innovation coming out of an India-based patented solution that is now globally scalable. Similarly, we are seeing interesting and highly innovative new methodologies emerge in biofertilizer. So the use of insect protein either for feed or for generating nitrogen-rich fluids, which then lead to biofertilizer and much more sustainable growing cycles. Using agri-bio-waste as an input, both for packaging as well as for fuel, is another area where we are seeing a lot of indigenous innovation in creating the next generation of bioreactors that are able to take the waste, which today is getting burnt as stubble, and creates a lot of air pollution. But take that waste, convert it into a substrate for packaging, which our company Dharaksha is doing. And we are also starting to see new methodologies where similarly supported by policy. There is with the new biofuel blending mandate, it is creating new economically, financially viable models to take agri-bio waste, convert it into much more fuel dense sort of intermediate compounds, and then eventually get it processed into ethanol or other biofuel for blending.
How is the current investment landscape in precision agriculture?
The investment landscape continues to be promising, but somewhat underfunded. I think what we are seeing is there is a lot of interest in early stage technologies, but not enough capital. A lot of these are core product chemistry, physics based sort of innovations that are coming out of our labs. So the TRL3 to TRL6 journey for new innovation tends to not have as much funding today. There is increasing amount of funding. It is coming both through policy. There are a lot of government schemes that have been announced for biotech, deep tech. We have institutions like CCAMP and BIRAC, and as well as DST supporting, but we need a lot more. And then particularly as these get ready for commercialization, Avanaa is one of the few funds that is actually thematically focused. We are the first thematically focused fund for climate more broadly, but there are other early stage as well as growth stage funds focused on agriculture. So that ecosystem is there, needs more capital, but is growing. What is further required is the other parts of the capital stack. Today we talked about equity, but in addition to that, you need that patient capital, as I mentioned, to do the early innovation. But we also need a lot more credit and further growth capital in these spaces. As these companies grow, they will require money for capex. We will require different opex models, as well as support to farmers, as well as small and medium enterprises for adoption of these technologies. So the good news is, yes, there is an ecosystem, it is growing, but there is a lot more that is needed.
And what is the impact on the climate and sustainability of these funding?
So when you go early and with early stage enterprise building, technology building, there is a big multiplier effect. So we have seen this in many industries over the last 15, 20 years in India's startup journey. Today we have more than 1 lakh registered startups. 20 years ago we had very few. So in this journey we have seen sector after sector which generate high returns. So the whole journey on fintech, on SaaS, on overall enterprise digitalization, I think we are now starting to see in areas of climate and sustainability. Precision agriculture and agriculture particularly are very, very high impact, both as I mentioned earlier on emissions that generate a lot of greenhouse gases, including methane and carbon. In addition to that, there is an element of circular economy and waste management, as well as the need to maintain security on our food supply chain. So India and many other countries like us in the global south are particularly vulnerable to extreme climatic events, of which we are now seeing much more frequent occurrence. So unseasonal rainfall, extreme heat, all of these tend to, or storms for that matter, they tend to have a very negative effect and destructive effect on our growing cycles. So extreme heat can kill standing crops, but at the same time also destroys a lot of the stored produce. And there's a lot more sort of wastage, spoilage, and rotting. At the same time, if it is unseasonal rain and we are still fairly dependent on the monsoon for our agriculture, then unseasonal rain has, as we can all imagine, negative impact both on the sowing as well as growing cycles for crops. So consequently, we do need to build in climate resilience, and companies like Iki or others that are helping to reduce water dependency, improve soil health, and help with waste elimination are much required.
Ma'am, how do you see the importance of supportive policies and government initiatives?
So in India, we've been fortunate with a very supportive policy regime around climate and sustainability. A number of the industries today that are already scaled, whether it is renewable or electric mobility, the catalyst really has been policy. So very enabling policy on, and we are seeing the production linked incentive schemes now for solar, FAME 1, FAME 2, and now hopefully FAME 3 for EV, as well as the newly announced critical minerals mission, support on green finance, which has been one of the hallmarks of the previous union budget and also this year's union budget, along with the announcement of schemes and capital for deep tech and biotech. So I think we have policy plays a critical role as an enabler and also for market creation. So sometimes because these are so novel and new, there may not be a market mechanism that is readily available. And policy helps to create either through incentives or through disincentives. So the EPR regime, the extended producer responsibility, actually has helped to provide acceleration for waste management and circular economy and collection and removal of plastics from the ecosystem. So policy has a very important role to play, and we are very appreciative of all the policy measures taken so far. And we actually, as an industry and as Avanaa, we look forward to more. In addition to the above policy measures, some of the other notable recent developments. So the Honorable Prime Minister's, the PM Surya Ghar Yojana, which is putting rooftop solar on 1 crore rooftops in India, I think is one of the more recent game-changing developments which will accelerate the adoption of solar and make it more affordable to rural economies and MSMEs. So in particular for small farmers, for MSMEs, individual residents. So things like the PM Surya Ghar Yojana are very important, as is the recently in the COP last year in G20, and then it was reinforced at COP, was the Global Biofuel Alliance, which was announced by Honorable Prime Minister as well. So in line with India's commitments, the Panchamrit model, as well as our NDCs, I think agriculture plays an important role. But in addition to that, I think policy measures across the ecosystem on climate for us as a country are very important, as well as at this point very enabling.
Ma'am, thank you very much for your very insightful views. I hope our listeners would have benefited from your view. Thank you very much.